The mud around Actium doesn't just stick to your boots. It swallows your soul. I wiped a mixture of brackish rain and sweat from my eyes, staring out at the gray expanse of the Abrachian Gulf. Somewhere out there, Octavian's fleet was waiting like a wall of iron. But here on this god-forsaken spit of land, the enemy isn't the boy in Rome. It is the air we breathe. The hum of mosquitoes is insufferable now. It's a rhythmic, maddening drone that follows you into sleep. If shaking from the marsh fever doesn't keep you awake first. I looked over at Lucius. Yesterday, he was a Triarius of the 10th, a man who'd survived the Parthian sands. Today, he is a shivering heap in the corner of the tent, skin the color of spoiled cream, teeth chattering despite this soupy heat. We're a grand alliance, or so the scroll says. But I look around and I don't see Rome. I see Egyptian mercenaries, sharpening curved blades, Levantines muttering in tongues I don't care to learn, and Greeks who look at us like we're the barbarians. We're out of grain, out of clean water, and rapidly running out of patience. Then a heavy, sweet scent wafted through the damp air, incense and roasting peacock, and I turned my head towards the inner promontory. There she is, the Queen of Kings. Cleopatra's pavilion stands like a golden blister on this gray landscape. While we pick weevils out of our hardtack and slap at malarial flies, she's reclining on silks, drinking wine that costs more than my family's farm. The generals, men like Domitus, are past the point of whispering. I heard them shouting in Antony's tent this morning. Send her back to Alexandria, they begged. This is a Roman fight. But Antony, he's gone. Not dead, but gone. He walks past us with eyes that see right through the legions, looking only for her. He's forgotten that a soldier follows a leader, not a lover. The wind picked up, carrying the salt of the sea and the stench of the dying. If the fever doesn't break soon, or if the ships don't move, there won't be any army left for Octavian to fight. We'll all just be bones in the mud, forgotten by a general who couldn't say no to a queen. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney. Welcome to the Time Travelers Club. The final disintegration of the Roman Republic and the fall of the Second Triumvirate was not a sudden event, but a slow burning fuse lit in the east. It began in earnest in 34 BCE, a year that saw Mark Antony turn his back on Roman tradition to embrace the opulent, dynastic ambitions of the Ptolemaic court. So as we saw last time, by 34 BCE, Mark Antony needed a military victory to restore his reputation after a disastrous campaign against Parthia 2 years prior. He eventually turned his eyes towards the kingdom of Armenia. Antony dispatched his envoy, Quintus Dellius, to King Artavasdes II to negotiate a marriage alliance that would unite the Armenian royal line with Alexander Helios, Antony's son by Cleopatra. Why are we marrying babies already?
Come on, it's the go-to. It's not a treaty unless we're marrying kids. Come on.
Rage! Babies don't need spouses.
Which is really weird because neither one of these people got... Well, I suppose Cleopatra got married to a child, but she herself was not a child. You know what I'm saying? And Antony definitely didn't have that problem either. I think he was in his 20s when he picked his first, wife or whatever. So I just find it really weird that they're all on the baby marrying train, but whatever.
Yeah. So when Artavasdes, the only sane one, hesitated, sensing Antony's desperation, The Roman general abandoned diplomacy. So you're not going to have your daughter marry my son? All right, fine then. Antony
I
marched
mean,
his legions north, swiftly defeating the Armenian forces. This is a dick move, Antony. What the fuck?
but also, all right. So, like, on the one hand, we're like, "Yay! This guy doesn't want to marry his child daughter off to another child," and it's like, "Oh, only because Antony's desperate." Though, if Antony hadn't been so desperate, that would have been fine. Just
Goddamn. But through a mixture of force and treachery, he captured the king, his wife, and 2 of his sons, seizing the royal treasury.
Oh, that's cool. So he has like the whole royal family hostage. Nice.
Oh, we love that. Antony, you're getting messy. Well, messier.
I mean, to be fair, they've done this since Gaul. I mean,
Yeah, they have. They have. I don't deny that. They have.
it just feel like it's been a while. That's all.
It's still icky. But traditionally, a Roman general would return to the temple of Jupiter in Rome to celebrate a triumph, offering the spoils to the gods of the city. Antony, however, brought his prizes to Alexandria. In a spectacle that scandalized the Roman Senate, Antony staged a Roman triumph down the wide boulevards of the Egyptian capital. The procession was a fusion of Roman military might and Hellenistic divinity. Antony rode into the city not as a Roman consul, but dressed as Dionysus, the god of wine and conquest. Revolution, but yes.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Conquest in this scenario, right?
Yeah.
Because we talked about this. They tried to rebrand Dionysus, right, as like this conqueror. It's like them taking control of the narrative and making him less of a scary god of revolution who lets women, like, be like the head people and stuff like that. It's like, okay. And so over time, they did transform it, where like Dionysus is going over and conquering the East and, raping and killing Amazons. And it's gross. We don't think here on the Time Travelers Club, don't believe Dionysus would do that, but that is the narrative. So it is in this scenario, exactly that of conquest.
It is the sterilized version of Dionysus then. It is the sterilized version of Dionysus being the god of wine and conquest. That is not what he is.
It's the version that meets their needs, right? Because he was more than happy to celebrate himself as Dionysus, god of revolution, before.
Yes.
Right? Now it's god of conquest.
Which, like, it's so icky. I hate. But he was driven in a chariot to the applause of the Greek and Egyptian populace. At the end of the route, he did not present the prisoners to Jupiter, but to Cleopatra.
Oh.
She sat waiting for him on a silver dais, enthroned on gold, accepting the captive Armenian royals as a tribute to her own power.
Which this hot, but messy.
Oh, super messy. Like, bad messy.
So this is the thing, right? On the one hand, a lot of this is being filtered through a Roman lens, right? To us. But also, I could see it. Okay. And the big problem here is that when we think of a triumph, we're thinking, oh, it's like a parade, right? It's not just a parade. That was religious. Like, first of all, right off the bat, you're supposed to have a triumph starting with going through the gate of Janus. That is the official end to the war, and where like you go through ceremony and kind of pragmatically, but at the very least ceremonially, like, you're handing over your weapons to come into the city, right?
Yeah.
So like there's a way of doing these things, right? And you are pissing off their fucking gods by having it anywhere else. And then just to really put that cherry on top at the end, right? Like also blasphemy this entire time because you're blending all this other crap that's not supposed to go in. I mean, like, imagine if someone did some of this stuff at like your church, I guess, or whatever today. Like, people would be big mad, and this is no different. And then just to really put the cherry on top, to like do all this to Cleopatra. First of all, a woman, gross. Second of all, a mortal. She claims to be a god. And yes, we understand that in Egypt, she's a goddess. End of the sentence. But to the Romans, they're like, this is just some broad. It's not a good look, Antony.
No, it is not. And like I'm gonna be so crude. He is so pussy drunk and wine drunk and power drunk on this. I'm just like, oh
yeah.
Oh God.
This is the moment where I'm like, I really just don't have a good explanation. What did you think was going to happen?
He
right?
literally
also,
thought himself
Cleo.
invincible. Like the
also
only
Cleo
explanation
for going
on
along.
Here, yeah, literally believing themselves invincible.
That's why I'm like, there was a point where maybe at the beginning this was a more political thing for them getting together, and they were like into each other. They're like, hey, you're hot. I think by this point, we are making dumb choices. Right?
I think
how is this ever going to end well? Right? Like,
yeah,
you didn't just have like a parade or a festival or something. Like it was a triumph, and you're twisting it. Like Rome's going to be big mad, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. And also like the presentation of prisoners and the captive Armenian royals. Like Armenia is still in theory allied with Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fuck. It's like you just took it upon yourself to put us in like essentially a political crisis. Armenia's now, I'm sure, doing great without their entire system of government. I'm sure they're doing fucking fine. Like, what are you doing, bro?
Here's the thing. And this is gonna sound interesting. I do fully believe that between these two people, probably with the substances that they were consuming, with the way that religious doctrine and politics were completely intertwined, the power that they actually held, they started to believe in their own mythology. They literally believed themselves immortal.
For sure. I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. Because up until this point, Cleopatra, Mark Antony too, to be fair, we've seen they were very good political animals. I would say Cleopatra a little bit more. But to his credit, Mark Antony, this is the beginning of he's like pussy drunk, straight up drunk idiot, right?
Yeah.
Who's not politically savvy and all that. And I would say if you're basing it from this, absolutely. But and they almost paint as like the slow decline and things like that. I think it's like you said, because we have to imagine there are years in between all these events, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like you said, they've just started to drink their own Kool-Aid,
And we've seen this happen to people. Like we have seen this happen to people in real time, in our lifetimes.
Well, Julius Caesar too, but yes, that too. But like Julius Caesar drank his own Kool-Aid, and we see what happened. He started wearing those fabulous boots, but like people weren't a fan. He couldn't read the room anymore. You get your finger goes off the pulse of the people, and then you can't find it.
Exactly.
And it's just kind of unfortunate to watch this happen again. You're like,
a little bit more than kind of. A little bit more than kind of.
I mean, at the end of the day, these were all rich people and things like that. But like again, we get Cleopatra in particular is painted as this whore, which she wasn't because she was with like two people and she never cheated on those people. But whatever. but like we've seen how much good she was doing for her nation. She was directly involved with justice, reformation, trying to, establish more equal rights amongst her people, like at least in a soft way, if not in a legal code kind of way, like she really was trying to like embrace the native populations and like bring them into the fold as well. And yet now she's leaning into it, the hedonism, more than any pharaoh had by this point, right? Like they're all rich, they've all been hedonists,
Yeah.
but like now, like, yeah, this is grand, and I don't know, it's not good.
And it's not a
So
good look.
no, I can't paint this in a way where it's a good look. I want to find a reason where I'm like, okay, now I understand why they did this. This makes sense, but I just don't have one.
It's not there.
It's not there. So but this isn't the end of it. The triumph was just the beginning. The true political earthquake arrived days later at the great gymnasium of Alexandria in a ceremony of breathtaking arrogance known as the Donations of Alexandria. We kind of talked we touched on it for a minute at the end yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Or yesterday. I sound good. Last time. We didn't even record it yesterday. It was just, I don't even know why I said that. But now we're going into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And Antony and Cleopatra sat upon golden thrones. God, starting off strong, surrounded by their children. Cleopatra appeared in the sacred regalia of the goddess Isis, declaring herself Queen of Kings, which,
I mean, yes, but still.
I'm going to just convince myself that that's Roman propaganda, but I don't know anymore. I don't know what's real anymore. While her son, Caesarion, dressed as a king, was titled King of Kings. See, this is where I can almost believe she did that then, right? Because
Yes.
that is like kind of like a throwback to like Persia and like Egypt when they were like, King of Kings. Like, okay, because she's not making herself queen of all the kings around the area, but it's more like, okay, in the legal sense, she is the queen of Egypt, and her quote unquote consort is her son. Not that they're married, but as in co-ruling.
Mm-hmm.
So like that actually could be a thing, and that's branding, girl. The branding's not there.
No.
Then Antony, in full Dionysus garb, redistributed the geography of the Roman East as if it was his own personal estate to do so with. No one's asking the opinions of the people living there.
I mean, why would they? I hate that statement, but why would they?
So we have little Alexander Helios, who was just recently betrothed and dumped.
Oh, maybe had his first breakup.
Let's say, so let's do the math here. It's 34 BC. This kid's 6. Right? 5 or 6.
Oh my god.
So I'm going to take a moment to put the really problematic political spin aside and just I'm going to imagine how cute these kids kind of look though. Okay. So they have little costumes too.
Mm-hmm.
So he is dressed in Median garb. Okay. So Media, if you don't know where that is going to be in where modern day, it's Persia, which, that's going to be, where Iran and all that is. So it's in if you're in the Persian Gulf, in the mountainous areas there, you're in the right territory, right? So that's Media. And they were contemporaries to the Persians at one point. Okay. So he's named as King of Armenia. So, hey, he got dumped, but he got to be king of the area He got to own his girlfriend's house, essentially. 6-year-old, because we just traded a king, queen, and their entire royal family and government with a 6-year-old.
Oh, babies don't need jobs.
Oh, he got multiple, though, girl, because he's also king of Media and Parthia. Territories Rome didn't even control. They don't own it. He's just giving other. It's like it's almost like Greenland being the 51st state.
No, you know what it reminds me of? Hold on. Somebody writing their will and donating like money on money on money. And you're like, okay, so what accounts do you have this money in? I don't know. I'm homeless. Like,
it's like, you're like, and in my will, I bequeath my neighbor's house.
like what the fuck?
What? Do you own it? No, but that's not the point.
I can't with this shit.
So then Cleopatra Selene is given Cyrene, okay? Like the area, it's got, like Cyrene is like a broader area.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right next door to Egypt and Libya. So most of North Africa.
Okay.
Which they do, I guess, technically, quote unquote, own at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Ptolemy, little Ptolemy, only 2 years old, dressed in these cute little Macedonian robes. Like, I'm just like, oh, he's got to look so cute. Was awarded Syria and Cilicia.
Oh.
It's like where his parents met. He gets to own that. That's so nice.
So
and
nice.
Then Caesarion. But it's like, well, we can't leave Caesarion out, right? But he's king of kings. He's king of Egypt right now. So what do we give Caesarion? Well, he received the most dangerous gift of all. Antony decided, in all of his wisdom, to publicly proclaim him as the true, legitimate son of Julius Caesar.
Is he trying to get this child killed?
Oh,
like, is he trying to get this baby killed?
But to be fair, he's not a baby. I mean, he's a kid at the end of the day, but he's like in his teens, early teens, I think.
I don't give no fucks. Okay, here's the thing. I'm a mama. I'm a mama of 3. Okay, I'm a mama of 3. My oldest is 14. That is still my baby. She will be my baby until I die. Okay, like regardless, that is a baby. That's a baby. You're trying to kill the baby. What the fuck?
This is why you women just get hysterical. That's why you need husbands.
Fuck like, that. You need a husband. I don't need shit.
I got one.
I know you do.
So, at any rate, this declaration was a direct existential threat to Octavian and Rome. Antony absolutely knew what he was doing here.
But
I don't know what the game plan was, but he's feeling confident.
Apparently.
Now, as we've said before, Octavian was Caesar's biologically great nephew, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his adopted son, which in the eyes of Rome made him his just like son, period. Right?
Yes.
His entire claim to power rested on the name Caesar. So by elevating Caesarion, the biological son of Caesar, Antony was effectively calling Octavian a usurper.
Fuck.
I feel like Octavian's just not one of those people you fuck around and find out with, but...
I mean, but at the same time, they don't understand the depravity of this individual as of yet.
Oh, I think Octavian... Well, Antony, I think, understands the depravity. But yeah, but that's the problem, is like you said, no one else does.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's gonna spin it. That's what he does.
Spin Dr. Supreme.
hmm While the kings were made and unmade in grand ceremonies, the sophisticated bureaucracy of Ptolemaic Egypt continued to function with clockwork and precision. A surviving artifact, Papyrus Bigam 45, offers a rare glimpse into this reality. Dated to February 23rd, 33 BCE, the document details a royal ordinance granting tax exemption and export privileges to a Roman named Publius Candidus Crassus. He's going to be important later.
Mm-hmm.
Candidus, or Canada, as I like to call him, Canada was no minor figure. He was Antony's most trusted land commander, and he would be important later in a very famous battle. I don't want to give spoilers. But the papyrus remains a haunting connection to the past because of a single subscription at the bottom in a different, hurried handwriting. It says Genestoi, or Greek for make it happen. Historians believe this is the personal autograph of Cleopatra herself, signing off on state business in the calm before the storm.
So,
She's not, she's just not immune here.
whoa, no,
But,
she's
yeah.
not. And she is not an instant bystander in the least. So, when news of the donations reached Rome, the shock was visceral. Antony sent a formal report to the Senate asking for ratification of his new map, but the two consuls for that year, Anabarbus and Sosius, were staunch Antony supporters. They suppressed the report, knowing it would be political suicide to read it aloud.
Which, man, these guys are pretty loyal. Like, damn, it's giving the current White House like, like a
In it,
little bit.
in
Like,
terrifying 4K.
oh no. It's just uh,
Yep.
like I'm gonna read this out loud, guys. Like,
I don't want to do
oh,
it.
what is Antony's end game? Like, hey guys, I just gave a bunch of our lands, just sign here. What?
Concernicus Maximus.
Concernicus is me. Yes, Concernicus Maximus has things to say.
Yes. Octavian, however, needed no official report to begin his attack. As the triumvirate legally expired at the end of 33 BCE, a ferocious propaganda war consumed Rome. Because if you control the narrative, you control the people.
Mm-hmm.
From Alexandria, Antony fired off letters accusing Octavian of hypocrisy. He claimed Octavian had illegally removed the third triumvir, Lepidus, and taken his armies. He argued that Octavian was blocking Antony's veterans from settling in Italy and that Octavian's very name was a fraud based on forged adoption papers.
Woof. Woof.
Woof! Bark
Also,
like a dog. Damn.
I mean, we know at least, honestly, probably all of it true, right? Like, we know he did that to Lepidus.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. It's pretty easy to prove if Octavian was blocking the veterans from settling Italy, because if they ain't got a house, and then, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if Octavian was using forced adoption papers, but in what we know of Octavian,
It wouldn't
could believe it.
surprise me. I think that's the bad part. It would not surprise me to see Octavian stoop that low. But, of course, history has two sides, right?
Yeah.
Octavian, a master of spin by this point, this man makes me dizzy, painted a picture of Antony not as a rival Roman, but as a man enslaved. Pussy drunk. He argued that Antony was drugged by sorcery, a puppet of a foreign queen who wished to rule Rome from Alexandria. The
My
gossip.
eyes are so rolled. My eyes have rolled to the back of my head to the point
Absolutely.
that I can see my own brain. Like,
We're pulling a SpongeBob. Got you. So the gossip was vicious. Stories spread that Cleopatra had dissolved a pearl worth 10 million sesterces in vinegar to win a bet, and that Antony was so subservient he washed her feet at dinner parties. People can have kinks, y'all. People can
also,
have
like,
kinks.
no, it's not even a kink. He treating his queen, like he's like, here, babe, you've been working all day. Let me massage your feet for you. Oh, thanks, babe. Like, it ain't weird. Whatever.
No, it's not. Well, it's weird to me because I have yet to find a man to do it. But that's a me problem. Um
But like at the same time, now I'm like really second guessing that whole Pearl story. I loved it, but now I'm like, huh, now that I see it like this, maybe it is just spin. Maybe that never happened. You know?
Potentially,
Like,
because you have to realize, like, when we say that history is written by the victors, the people will
mm-hmm,
actually sit there and doctor documents, will put forth their narrative to make them not the bad guy. We see this
right.
over and over and over and over and over again. Think Vietnam War, think Korean War, think, all of the different expeditions in South America to yay freedom, yay democracy. No, it wasn't. It's spin.
But also like in this scenario too, like I'm sure they were living it up. I'm sure there was decadence and all that. But like maybe it wasn't to that level where they're just like, dissolving entire pearls just for the sake of a bet. Like now thinking about it, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put it out there that here on the Time Travelers Club, maybe we are deciding that she did not, in fact, dissolve millions of dollars worth of pearl just to prove a point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sexy story. Let's be super real. It
Mm-hmm.
is a sexy
Yeah, it's
story
hot.
of, all right, want to bet?
But it
Let's
also
bet.
paints her as this person who's so it's Marie Antoinette, right? We see
Yeah.
it over and over and over again, like with um yeah, Catherine de Medici, with Marie Antoinette, and like even Catherine the Great. Like we see this all the time, like when women are in power or have anything like that, right? Or they're super rich, like paint them in a certain way. And in this case, it's like she's so disconnected from the people she rules over that while they like starve or struggle or whatever, she's drinking like fucking pearls.
Yeah. And it's
And
it's kind
also
of
probably a
ridiculous.
euphemism.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely a euphemism. But yeah, it's disgusting. It is propaganda, and realistically as we're going through it, even like sometimes even during like the conversation of this, we're having these revelations like, "Oh no, this is narrative. This is
Yeah.
propaganda." So,
Yeah.
the climax of this Cold War came when two key supporters of Antony, Munatius Plancus and Marcus Titius, Titty, they
Kitty.
defected to Octavian. They are not loyal titties.
No, one's just going all in the direction on its own.
So for my other big chested women, they are the titties that try to strangle you at night. This is why we don't sleep on our backs.
Easy to slit your throat.
Exactly. They revealed that Antony had deposited his will with the Vestal virgins,
See,
shattering. Mhm.
this is where I'm going to say I think this is bullshit, and if there's a forgery, it's here. Continue.
Oh my gosh. Shattering religious taboos, Octavian marched into the temple of Vesta. First, fuck you, Octavian.
Because he's not allowed in there.
No,
There's
he
so
is
many rules
not.
about this.
Like, this is not just taboo. This is complete sacrilege. This is horrific. Whoa.
That's why people put these things here, because they're supposed to be safe.
Exactly. But he marched into the temple of Vesta. He seized the will and he read it to the Senate. The document confirmed Antony's desire to be buried in Alexandria with Cleopatra, not in Rome. This was the proof Octavian needed. Antony had ceased to be Roman. To rally the people without igniting the shame of another civil war, Octavian declared war solely on Cleopatra. The Senate ritually stripped Antony of his consulship and powers, declaring him an outlaw who was following a foreign sorceress to his doom.
Which I'm suspect. I'm side-eyeing this so much. He just happens to find this magic document that confirms all the fears of the people.
Yep. Bullshit.
In a place he wasn't even supposed to be in the first place.
Exactly.
Honestly, this is like no facts, just vibes. But you know what? I think he went in there, saw the will, and it was boring. Wasn't this thing he needed. And he's like, fuck it. I'm walking out here with something.
Well, here's the thing. With documents like this, how easy is it to forge, especially in this time period?
Right.
Like, we still deal with forgeries now. We still deal with this kind of shit now. How much easier was it back at that time period?
Right. And it's not like someone's comparing his handwriting or nothing anyway. But like, even then, is he even really letting people look at it? Like, is he just going in there, I have found this, reads it out loud, and everyone just was willing to believe it? He's primed them for this for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right. It's
yeah.
And I don't know. To me, I'm giving it side eye.
Oh, there's plenty of side eye here.
And I'm not even saying that maybe he did have plans of having himself buried in Alexandria and all that. Maybe that is true. I just, I don't know. Seems weird that he, had that written up and sent all the way to Rome?
Yeah. Especially since, like, realistically, he already is using Alexandria as the seat of his power. Why would he entrust documentation to Rome?
Right.
That makes no sense.
Where his political enemy is? Yeah. And like, again, then it's like, well, maybe he wrote it before he went there, which is what Octavian's trying to spin here. I don't buy it, personally.
No. There's nothing to purchase.
and there's like Plancus and Titius here. You know, how easy is like, okay, I have a plan. You're going along with it. This is what's going to happen. And you guys are going to vouch and say you told me that was there. It wouldn't be hard, you know?
It wouldn't be. Like, especially
when these guys feel they feel like they're justified doing it.
Absolutely.
It's not lying. You're just lying to the people for their own good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. Our stance is we're not sure we buy it, Octavian.
Bullshit, Octavian.
But in any case, by 32 BCE, the Mediterranean was now split in two. However, the declaration could not have been unexpected, and it may have even come as a relief. But what may have been a surprise, at least for Cleopatra, was its terms. She herself had not engaged in any hostilities towards Rome, and she had done everything possible to make herself this like ideal vassal. And even if she had certain privileges, all this time we have seen that she had maintained order in her kingdom, supplied Rome whenever they called upon her to do so, except that one time during the Civil War, but whatever. And even to the detriment of her own people at times. So something I don't think we ever mentioned, when Caesar rocked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knocked her up and was leaving for Rome because Antony was drunk. He was like, yeah, so you know that debt your dad owed us? We want it all right now. Right now.
Yeah, no, we didn't go over that.
So yep, she had to pay literally an entire nation's debt all at once. And to do so, she actually had to go from gold standard to silver standard.
But you know what?
She had to,
She got it done.
yeah.
She
And then he used all
fucking
that
got it
money.
done.
Yeah, she got it done. But like, it, to be fair, it was kind of at the detriment of her own people. But like, right, she paid off the balance, and then Caesar used that money to have 12 days of party and all his triumphs back in Rome. Also, she wasn't invited. So, really awkward. But anyway, but yeah, so like, we've seen her, she's never done anything to like intentionally sabotage Rome or anything until honestly these donations. And that's why I'm like, girl, what you doing? Like, it's not a good look.
No, it's
And
not.
but to me, like, she's never done anything that deserves this open like war,
No,
declaration of war.
and that's the thing. She never has done anything that deserves an open declaration of war. They are
Yeah,
using this as an excuse.
yeah, and because that's just the thing. Octavian's doesn't declare war on Antony. He declares war on Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
Just her. And he's using like she has seduced and bewitched Antony.
Ooh, seduced. Ooh, bewitched. It's the same fucking story told time and time again. Blame the vagina havers.
But that's the thing. I don't think Octavia really is. You know?
No.
He don't. No. It's just
No, it's a
rather than
ploy for the
another.
simpletons.
Well, right, because here's the thing. Rather than it being like, oh my God, he's dragging us into another civil war. It's not a civil war, guys. We're saving him. We have to save our brother from this witch. Also, we will, and if we win, we'll get all this bullshit.
Wow, sounds very Holy War-esque.
Right. So, with that being said, yes, she had gained a lot, but that had all been through diplomacy and politics. And honestly, she wouldn't have gained any of this without the actual like rubber stamp of Rome.
Nope.
Like, they had been complicit. If they were nervous, it was very hindsight, right? We hear like Rome was nervous, but gave it to her anyway. These are all people writing after the fact, right? So, as Stacy Schiff in her book, Cleopatra, A Life, says, quote, she had done everything in her power to uphold and nothing to diminish the surpassing greatness of Rome, end quote. And that's been true. She hasn't ever said that Egypt was better than Rome, nothing. You know, she's always been pretty supportive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the donations are really what does it at this point. That really was just honestly stupid on her part. But I mean, if anything, it just goes to prove that they had always been waiting for her to fuck up.
Well, of course they had been.
So, but of course, that would never have been enough. At the end of the day, Rome was ready to make its move to seize Egypt for itself. And due to the misogyny of the day, she, as a female ruler, was an easy excuse, and no one was going to question it. Just like Fulvia, we see where loyalties get you. So even though it had been Antony who gave away those lands, she was going to be to blame. Antony and Cleopatra's would establish their headquarters at Ephesus and then Samos, gathering a force that dwarfed anything seen before. They commanded 19 legions of infantry, which is roughly 75,000 men. Right? That's why when I said earlier, oh, we sent you 2,000 people.
That's an insult.
Right. It's cute. And also when Fulvia raised 8, that's insane. Like God, the math on that. But anyway, like what, 20,000 men or more? Something like that?
Probably more.
They also had 12,000 elite cavalry and a massive fleet of 500 ships. The experience, popularity, and numbers were all on Antony's side here. As we've seen, he was by far the more skilled commander, or at least the one with the most hands-on experience, behind whom stood the most powerful dynasties in Asia. So he's got the money, he's got the people, he's got the actual experience.
Mm-hmm.
To him, it made no difference that he had no authority in Rome, and a third of the Senate was in fact on his side. However, this political coalition was fragile. Over 300, because again, Roman men ain't shit. Just because a third of them are loyal to you, please. You might as well not have them.
Exactly. They're easily
But
turned.
Over 300 senators and both consuls had fled Rome to join Antony, but they were uncomfortable with Cleopatra because cooties.
Oh,
But
boys,
really,
please.
but they were uncomfortable with her prominent role in the war council because vagina. But there was some bigger issues here. As a quote unquote foreigner, Cleopatra would never be legally recognized as Antony's wife under Roman law, even if he had divorced Octavia, which he sure did, guys. When he had done those denunciations, he also put out there he was divorcing Octavia.
I mean,
You can keep the kids.
You can keep the kids.
I got enough on my hands here, thanks.
Oh my god.
I will say poor Octavia on this part. Like, that's shitty.
I mean, it is shitty. Just,
Like, he could pay child support. Come on.
Roman men ain't shit.
So it was only in the eastern regions that the relationship was even recognized. For Egypt and Cleopatra herself, it didn't matter, as Antony had no official status there anyway. He was there as a consort and patron, a pretty face, honestly, and not much more. While unproblematic in Egypt, that was not the case in Rome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where toxic masculinity and patriarchy were everything. I mean, was he just some fuck then? A boy toy? The woman of the relationship? I feel like that question really hits home because, I remember a time when people would ask those kinds of questions of me, like, well, which one of you is like the wife?
Yeah, that's always grossed me out a lot.
Neither, because both of us have penises, so.
Yeah.
And this, if you're ever wondering where that comes from, it's right here.
Yep.
What they mean is who's the dominant and who's the submissive. And they're assuming that if you're the bottom or the submissive one, the house, like the homemaker, which you don't have to be any of those things. Fun fact. I mean, like you both could just do things equally, but that's crazy. One of you has to be one of those things. That means you're the woman.
Yep.
So because Cleopatra has the job and he's at home just organizing parties and stuff, he must be the lady.
Gross.
Oh, very gross. But the very thought of this caused these men to clutch their pearls. After all, she was the dominant in the relationship. On top, even metaphorically, then that made her the man and him the bitch.
Oh my god.
And Mark Antony, the visual epitome of masculinity. How dare they do that to their icon? How dare she? And he's like, "Have you tried? Have you tried it? I love me a good, cowgirl. Like,
Yeah. It's good
I,
for both, I promise.
that was just. But to Romans, this was just absolutely unnatural and unacceptable. Acceptable,
Unacceptable.
unacceptable.
Oh.
Oh, it's a
Oh.
city of lemon grabs.
Oh god. For Octavian's part, though, this had been a plot for 12 years now. It was Antony's actions that had made him a traitor of Rome, according to Octavian. He was just so heartsick about the state of affairs, and he felt so affectionately towards him and even entrusted him with a share in command and with a much loved sister. Octavian was quick to point out that he had not declared war even when Antony had humiliated his sister, neglected their children and his previous children, and then bestowed upon another woman's children the possessions of the Roman people. We are not going to acknowledge here that we seized those people and their possessions because of colonialism and never asked them for their permission either. But it's different this time. And of course, Octavian really didn't want to go to war. He just wanted Antony to see the light that Cleopatra was the problem here, and he just needed to leave her. Sounds like a little bitch boy, honestly. But all of this was a ruse. He knew that Antony could never win a war without her, and he knew that Antony would never leave her because of it. The battle at Philippi had bought Antony over 10 years of goodwill, but it was all an end now. He had been away for far too long and was unrecognizable to his own people. Therefore, it was easy to believe the story that Octavian was spinning, because just like today, there's fake news, and people don't like to fact check. And that was even harder to do back then. You were dependent on your local news source, and news had to go through certain channels first before they were ever even distributed amongst the people. To further support this, back in 33 BCE, Octavian had expelled the multitude of astrologers and soothsayers from Rome, ostensibly to purge the growing Eastern influence. Actually, better to control the storyline. With his own Roman oracles, he even came up with a story about how on the Acropolis it was said that the statues of Cleopatra and Antony had been struck by lightning and lie in sorry ruins.
Ugh.
Disgusting. And the part that pisses me off, and I've said it before, guys, I use divination all the time. I do this all the time. I do it for myself. I do it for clients. I do it for friends because it is a way to connect yourself with the divine. The fact that he would go to such a sacrilege extent and have these people lie for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, because the thing is like, I don't disbelieve that there was a storm one night, and when people woke up the next morning, those statues were wrecked. Do I think that they were struck by lightning? No. I think what
No.
happened is we smashed them, and then, oh, look, guys, they must have been struck by lightning.
Yeah.
Even if they had, I mean, it's not impossible, I guess, that they were struck by lightning, but like, even if they had, we're so spinning this.
Oh yeah. No, it's absolutely being spun like a yarn. And it's frustrating as hell. Because
It's
this is
spinning
the
more
kind of
than a
shit.
neurospicy kid.
Oh, God. But this is the kind of shit that actually makes people see people that do divination as con artists, because it has been used as an aspect of political theater and to give religious sanctification to the moves of politicians. Like, fuck that. Fuck that. But of course, there was Cleopatra. Octavian would spin her as a brutal, bloodthirsty queen. All I'm seeing is Queen of the Damned right here, and I'm just like, damn, Cleopatra, get it, girl, get it, get it, get it.
But that
Like,
is exactly who he is describing.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then he also goes and throws in there, essentially, she's not even that hot, guys.
She's sexy and she can literally persuade you with her pussy, but she's not that hot. Like, the fuck?
Well, like, that's how they describe Cleo. Even today, we had that part of the episode
I
a while
remember.
back where it's like, yeah. And I'm like, which is it? Is she hot enough to ruin nations or not?
Exactly.
Like,
Make
pick
up your
one.
fucking mind. Jesus. But he's going to spin her as this brutal, bloodthirsty queen whose only wish was to seize the world of Rome for herself, even if it meant fucking her way there. Jesus Christ. Oh, you're going to fuck your way to the top? Oh, who'd you have to fuck to get your promotion?
I'm just.
Do you feel my rage?
I just see her like on a contraption where like it moves, like
Oh,
with like
no.
you gotta bounce on it to like yeehaw, get her way to the top.
Jeez. No, and all I can hear in the back of my head is bounce on it, crazy style.
My brain goes to like that America's Next Top Model from like 2000s.
Oh,
like it's like
my
you want to
God.
be on top. You want to be on top.
Jesus Christ. But these guys, these fuckers, they were Romans. They had conquered men like the fierce Gauls, Germans, and Britons. Would they let some Egyptian whore conquer them with their eunuchs and hairdressers? I have got to love the misogyny and the bigotry in that comment. Like, it is, woo, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fucking fight. But it is pretty
awesome.
impressive. It is impressive to attack so many oppressed groups at once.
Oh my God. Not the hairdressers.
Oh my God, they're not just shaving their heads. Ugh.
Like, again, which is it? Are they pathetic and not real men? Or are they able to kill you? Like, which is it?
Pick one. Pick one.
Pick one.
Not to mention.
So just like a personal little thing in my life, this actually reminds me of something. So I remember, like, I was, like 18 or whatever, hadn't come out to my family or anything yet, right?
Mhm.
And someone that my mom was dating made a comment, right? Because they were in the military, right? And this was when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was being revoked, right?
Mhm.
And he made the comment of like, so, like, what? Like, he doesn't like the idea that gay people could be in the military. And I'm like, why? Who gives a shit? And he was like, well, like, what if they try to like, force themselves on me?
No, that's the
And
thing.
like, he was also the same guy who made comments about like, them not being good enough for the military because they weren't manly enough. And you're like, which is it? Are they so scary that they're going to rape you, or like because they can overpower you, or are they like weaklings?
No, and that series of just wonky logic, because it makes no fucking sense, right?
It's not. Yeah.
Like, I sit
And,
here
like,
as a woman. I'm like, oh my God, you're so afraid to be hit on by a man because you don't want to be treated like a woman.
Exactly. And that's actually what I said to him. So I'm like, so you're afraid like how a lot of men would treat women?
Mm-hmm.
And like, he got real quiet. And I'm like, well, he goes like, well, I wouldn't. I'm like, well, that's not what I said. But that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's the argument of like why women can't be alone with guys. Like women shouldn't wear certain things. It's that same strain of logic, and you are so afraid that someone's going to treat you like that
Yep.
when they promise they don't give two shits.
Exactly.
Like, what the hell? And it just, but this is where it all stems from, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, Greece and Rome.
Absolutely. Which is fucking gross. We should have dropped this shit over 2,000 years ago. It's been 2,000 years. Fucking stop it. So, Octavian, right, had found his own Antony and Lepidus rolled into one. Agrippa. He Agrippin that penis. But
Agrippa. Fun fact: this is who Julia, his daughter, will marry one day.
oh,
His baby.
ew. Ugh.
Yay! I made it gross again.
Oh
It's always
yeah.
about the child marriage.
It's all about the child marriage and now I want to vomit. But he had the jock skills of Antony with the golden retriever personality and loyalty of Lepidus. He eagerly supplied the raw military skill his commander lacked and had no quarrel with letting Octavian keep most of the glory. So Agrippa had low self-esteem. He's got
Like, I
natural
don't
talent
even
and he's
know.
got skills, but he has
Yeah,
no self-esteem to allow
I don't
somebody to
even.
take your own glory. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know, but it's interesting because a lot of people, like, I remember being told essentially, like doing this topic when I was growing up and whatever, that Agrippa was essentially Octavian. Agrippa was to Octavian what Antony was to Caesar. He's really not, right? I mean, Octavian really hammered out the kinks of that relationship, right? Because Caesar, we've seen, right, sometimes had a hard time controlling Antony because, shocking, Antony was his own person.
Indeed.
Um, Agrippa had none of those problems. He just kind of went along with whatever Octavian told him to do. He was the yes man for sure. Take over, go lead my fights, my battles, do this, marry my daughter, who's like a baby, whatever I gotta do. And he was just like, yes, sir. Um, and yeah, like I find that whole relationship fascinating. But in any case, by the winter of 32 BCE, it would pass with a fever pitch of inertia. And for the second time now, the usually rash Antony appeared slow in opening a campaign. It would seem that he had not learned the lessons of his mentor, Caesar, who was rather infamous for using the winter and what seemed like illogical times to surprise his enemies. I mean, he himself being a part of that many of those times.
Mm-hmm.
The Rubicon, Brunesium, all of that. But perhaps a maneuver like that would have changed the course of this narrative. Speed was something he needed. Cleopatra might have been the richest person in the world, but even she had limits to that wealth in funding these campaigns. With every month, she was running up a considerable expense, and she was going well above the normal spending limit for a legion by quadruple the amount.
Holy
It would,
shit.
yeah, it was like normally, like if I think it was like five, like what was the math on it? It was like five. It was like 4 or 5 talents normally to fund a legion. She was spending like 20. Like, which a talent, by the way, depending on the system of measurement you're using, like if it was a talent, you had talent to silver, talent to gold, not going hardcore into the currency. I'm going to assume silver here, but whatever. A talent of silver was literally a man's weight in silver
What the fuck?
or gold. Right. So yeah. Um it was a lot of money. A lot of money. Um and it would seem that maybe Antony had no desire for this war, which on the surface seems like maybe a surprise with our favorite jock. In his youth, he seemed to really revel in it, but after settling down and enjoying his family, maybe he had realized there was a different way of living. Something Octavian was probably very much in tune with, and exactly why he had chosen this moment to strike. During this time, Octavian invited Antony to an absurd staged encounter, and Antony would challenge Octavian to a duel, neither coming to anything. It's all just show and peacocking amongst two guys, a dick measuring contest, if you will.
Well, we already know which way his dick swings, okay? We've seen that. That
And this goes on for a while, like a year. Um, but in early 31 BCE, Octavian finally made his move, rather suddenly. He transferred 80,000 men from the Adriatic to the Ionian Sea, and this forced Antony to go up north, as he hadn't moved his infantry into place yet, so this really threw him for a loop. Antony could not manage this as he had not gathered all of his troops, and his crews were incomplete. So it looks like Octavian had read his Uncle Dad's lessons.
Uncle
And
Dad.
this Uncle Dad. This retreat, though, did force Octavian to withdraw. The following weeks would consist of taunts and skirmishes, as Octavian roamed freely among the harbors of western Greece, and as Antony settled his legions on a piece of land, little more than a sandbar, at the southern entrance of the Ambracian Gulf. Here, Actium provided an excellent harbor, but it was still a damp and desolate area, covered in swampy lowland thickets with ferns and grasses, which would have been a good battle site, but would have been a miserable campsite. Swamps like these would have been vectors of disease, especially in the hot summer months when mosquitoes would have been everywhere. It would not have taken Antony or Cleopatra long to realize this, but weeks passed into attempted engagements. Octavian would try and fail to lure Antony out to sea, and Antony, in turn, could not coax Octavian onto land battle, so yet again, they were at a stalemate. Because, war is not always just battles and glory. Sometimes it's real boring.
It's
Like,
a
hurry
lot
up
of
and
times
wait.
it's real boring.
Hurry up and wait.
Mm-hmm.
Octavian decided to focus on cutting off Antony's supply lines, though, at which over spring and summer he proved highly successful. Because we have to realize kind of the geography here, which we'll get to in a bit. But Antony at this point is relying on the sea, routes for people to provide him supplies more so than the land routes. And it was through this that bit by bit, Antony and Cleopatra began to seize the advantage. At this time, the question of strategy must have hung heavy over Antony on whether to continue to wait it out or to meet Octavian out at sea. But that is not to say that from Octavian's point of view, that Antony's camp looked in dire straits. From the distance, his soldiers would have seen a splendid sight with vast variegated armies and flashes of gold-spangled and purple-red robes. As Stacy Schiff again described it, quote, towering Thracians in black tunics and bright armor mingled with Macedonians in fresh scarlet robes, in fresh scarlet cloaks, Medians in richly colored vests, and Ptolemaic military cloaks woven with gold might feature royal portraits or mythological scenes. The scruffy Greek lowland blazed with the costly equipment, with gleaming helmets and gilded breastplates, jeweled bridles, dyed plumes, and decorated spears. The bulk of the soldiers were Eastern, as were the increasing numbers of rowers, many of them raw recruits. With them, assembled an ecumenical collection of arms, Thracian wicker shields, and quivers, joined Roman javelin, and Cretan bows, and long Macedonian pikes.
Of course, Cleopatra was the one who had to pay for most of this, but she did offer something else as her own personal contribution. It was her gift in languages that had helped organize all of these vastly different people, and something Antony could never wish to do on his own. She spoke the language of the Armenian cavalry and the Ethiopian infantry, the Medians as well as all of the different Hellenistic sovereigns. Furthermore, most of these people had experience with powerful queens such as her and would have had no problem taking instructions from her, unlike the Roman legions. Fuckboys. Furthermore, they had little sympathy for either Antony or Octavian, as many of their own lands had been conquered by the Romans, who in turn had always held them in contempt as decadent and barbaric foreigners, even in their own lands. That being said, though, Cleopatra in recent years had benefited much from that same conquest. And there were many in the camp, including Herod and the Nabatean king Malchus, who had suffered personally because of this, and while she could communicate amongst these different groups herself, it didn't mean they couldn't communicate with each other, nor did they trust each other. As this stalemate wore on, Cleopatra's presence did little for morale, and Herod, perhaps seeing a situation, decided to back out, knowing it would shake up Cleopatra's position. Perhaps he was trying to realign himself to Octavian. Or perhaps he thought that by backing out, it would force Antony's hand into dismissing Cleopatra, as he had no intention of Antony losing. But with that being said, Cleopatra occupied the vital position in the camp and did little to apologize for that position. After all, she was Egypt's commander-in-chief, and she rightfully believed that war preparations and operations were her duty, no different than if she had been a male pharaoh. Her failing, however, may be that she felt that Antony was the only friend she needed. While we can applaud her for her unwillingness to be silenced, perhaps a gentler hand would have been the more political thing to do. She seemed to have been able to do that before, but perhaps this is proof that she has gotten more emotionally attached by this point. And let's not forget that there were Romans here, and they were absolutely not okay with her authority and status as an equal partner. Their pride and misogyny just wouldn't allow it, even though it was thanks to her that they had all of the best gear and food that they could ask for. Again, we see her in a position where no matter what she did, she would be wrong. And perhaps she had backed herself into a corner. By not standing down, she was upsetting the balance of the camp. But if she relaxed a little bit, it was possible she would just be sent home. She was between a rock and a hard place, realistically. And honestly, if she had left, it would also have been bad.
Yeah, I think that's right. She just, what was she going to do? And we're about to get about a lot of this in a second, but yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, who we should be blaming is Antony.
Absolutely.
He was honestly, he kept dragging his feet and he wasn't making a choice. And that's what ultimately screws these guys over. Like we've seen it already. He had the element, he could have taken the element of surprise, organized quickly, and then just shock and awe. Nope. They just hung out, and she's got to bankroll all this shit the entire time, But then now we've got now they're here at Actium, and now it's a siege honestly, it's a siege.
Yep.
And she can have all the money in the world, and have prepped a lot of the food and stuff, but eventually it's going to run out.
Like, she took care of one of the most important aspects because you have to feed your soldiers.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is a fucking thankless job. Like, honestly, everything that we're looking at, everything that we're reading, all I'm hearing is bitching and moaning and groaning because she is a woman. That is all I'm
Uh-huh.
hearing.
And it's going to get worse.
Oh, I
But
believe
for
it.
real, like, it just like she laid the groundwork. It was all up to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got you the supplies, I got you the people, I got you. You just got to make a choice. You got to do something with it. Crickets. Because he honestly, I could agree that maybe he just didn't want to do it in the first place.
I wonder,
But
and this is one of those moments where obviously this is not canon. I don't know. I wonder if he had the thought of, war didn't get declared on me. It was declared on you.
ooh, maybe, I don't know. I actually was thinking something different. I wonder if he's thinking about Parthia. I wonder if that really shattered his ego a little bit.
Well, absolutely it shattered him because he got
Because
his
up until that
shit
point, he never,
rocked.
yeah, and he never lost until that point.
Exactly.
Like,
And
not like that, not a whole war anyway. I
oh
mean,
no.
the early stuff was Caesar, but like when he was a kid and he rolled on up in Egypt and Judea the first time around, right? He kicked ass when he was with Galbinus there. Then when he's with Caesar, again, they fucking took over Rome. They kicked
Mm-hmm.
Pompey's ass. And then once the Civil War kicked off, with like the assassins, he kicks their ass. So
Well,
it's like, and then Parthia happened.
and then Parthia happened, but here's the thing. Like, with every battle that has been up to this point, Julius Caesar was a part of it, even in spirit, right?
Yeah.
Parthia was the only one where he wasn't.
That's true.
It didn't have a rallying point. People weren't loyal to Antony like that. Antony wasn't as inspirational as Caesar was. He didn't
Yeah.
have that kind of bearing of himself, and he didn't hold himself to that political standard.
It was a different, yeah, he was popular, but it was a different kind of popular, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that, yes, he really could whip the people into a frenzy, as we saw with his orations on Caesar's death. But like you said, even then, he's kind of riding on Caesar's corpse there.
Yes, he is.
Like he's getting them upset about Caesar.
He's
And like,
passionate as a friend. He's passionate for his friend that is now
yeah,
gone. But these people aren't getting passionate for him.
at the end of the day, I think that the smartest thing for him to have done long time ago was for him to recognize his role and kind of dip out, right?
Mm-hmm.
He could have stayed with Cleo, right? Been like, look, I've really fallen in love with this land, and I understand it comes into conflict with my responsibilities at Rome. Therefore, I'm going to nominate this person. I think that they would be a great addition to the triumvirate. I'm going to back down, right? Y'all
Mm-hmm.
can figure this out, and I will be the liaison between Egypt and Rome.
And
A diplomat.
could have, should have, would
He
have.
could have, because Egypt doesn't need him to be those things, right?
No.
Of course, it was beneficial for Cleopatra for him to be in power, but like not that much. Like he could have still retained loyalty at that point, because that's in the Roman culture too. This idea
Mm-hmm.
of like, once you fulfill the duty, right, the Cincinnatus, if you will, he could have emulated that and backed down.
Mm-hmm.
Octavian, it would have taken the wind out of Octavian's sails. Like, look, he's disloyal. No, I recognized it, and I love the Roman people so much that I know that I'm not the best one for this task anymore.
Exactly. And
he could have had it all. He could have had the family, could have had Cleo, he could have been rich as fuck and still important and got to relax.
got
I
to
don't,
actually die an old man instead of dying a younger man.
or at least potentially, yeah. I mean, we don't know. But like at the end of the day, I think it was the upbringing. He could not. They wouldn't allow it. But that was the problem. He didn't have enough. He wanted both. He wanted the life, but then he wanted all of the glory too. I think there was this crisis of like identity. Who am I? Am I Roman? Am I Dionysus? Like I want to be both, but you can't be both. You have to pick one, and we're seeing it again here. Indecisiveness. I can't. Don't make me pick. It's easier when someone else makes the decisions. Caesar. It's when he was in charge of Rome as master of the horse. He struggled with decision making, waiting for Caesar to tell him what to do.
Like,
He was good at tactics. He wasn't good at strategy. Like in the moment, he's good.
Well,
But
he's
that
good when it's
only
in
gets you
front
so
of him.
far.
He's good when it's in front
Right.
of him. It's more of a
Yeah,
long-term
what's the
planning
long?
kind of thing. Like he doesn't have it.
No. And like that, and that's fine. You have to recognize that in yourself. And because he could not, and honestly, this is again where I'm like, Cleo must have loved him because, you know, she's in the past seemed to be pretty good about doing that stuff herself. You know, like I think that's where, like, that's the proof right there. But like I said, this is where it's really coming down to is he's just not good with the decision making when you need it.
He is not good in a strategic crisis. He is good in a snap decision crisis.
Yeah, and yeah. So anyway, and further exasperating all of this, right? There may have been moments behind the scenes that actually left poor Cleopatra rattled and not in a good mindset to make the best decisions, right? Cleopatra failed in particular to ingratiate herself to a certain Ahenobarbus. Ahenobarbus, that guy from earlier, whose name we have a hard time pronouncing, was by that point arguably Antony's most distinguished supporter. He was one of those consuls. Just a little background on him. He is described as a, quote, proud Republican, and led the consuls that had fled to Ephesus that previous spring. To the Romans, he was considered to be resolute and totally incorruptible, and therefore, from the start, he had trouble with Cleopatra. As a total smack to the face, he refused to even address her by any of her titles, and he would just simply call her Cleopatra.
Absolutely the fuck not.
Not even a quick, Your Highness. Like, I guess it is weird because they don't believe in kings and stuff. And
They
it's
don't
like, okay,
believe
if I
in
start
kings,
calling
but
her
they're
your...
foreign.
I know. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird because it's like, okay, if you say your majesty, that almost implies you're implying fealty to her. I don't know. But
No,
the
it
point was to say, he's like, yo, Cleo. And it's like, I don't know what the right term is, but it ain't that.
It's disrespectful. What
Call her
the
like ma'am,
fuck?
at least ma'am. Like mistress, something. Like, I don't know, not Cleo. It's just odd. Like, but she tried, apparently, according to the Romans, she tried a familiar tactic of buying him off. But apparently he rejected it vehemently because, of course, he's a Roman. And just to make things worse, he also made no secret of his opinion that she was a liability. Like anyone who would listen, like, oh my God, she needs to go. And just to make things worse, he made it no secret of his opinion that she was a liability to anyone who would listen, and that with her gone, this whole war could just be avoided. It's all her fault. Octavian's at war with her. But we would also like to make a note that he was implicated and condemned for Caesar's murder. He was probably one of the ones who stabbed Caesar. And he also fought against Antony at Philippi. So it's not like he's got the best track record either.
No, dude's
Just
a backstabber. Maybe quite
the
literally.
like, yeah. But it would seem that after the Civil War, he had apparently ingratiated himself to Antony and had been quite loyal and instrumental in opposing Octavian this whole time. Which, I mean, I guess 12 years is a long time to be playing the long game, but, you know.
Yeah, but considering how snaky Octavian is,
yeah. But also a lot of these guys.
Do you see what I'm laying down?
But a lot of these guys, when they stabbed Caesar, had convinced themselves that they were loyal to the Republic and doing the right things. And so he may have been betraying Octavian at this point, too, for those same reasons. Like, he could see what this fucking kid was up to. He's not a kid anymore, but still, this guy was up to, you know, and he's like, I've stabbed one dictator before, you know?
I've stabbed one.
And so maybe he saw Antony, at least originally, as like, hey, I've worked with this guy, you know. But like, it had to have been pretty alarming to also seeing him stylize himself as a king. So, yeah. But the point is that he has no right to be judging nobody.
No. But then again, the ones that do rarely do.
Also, in a wonderful age-old tradition that we've seen pop up so many times before, can you guess it? Can you guess what he did?
Oh no! What?
He betrothed one of his. Yes, he betrothed one of his sons to Antony's daughters. Hopefully, one of the older ones.
Damn it! Stop marrying off babies.
Hopefully, not like Octavia's. You know, like.
Jesus.
Like, hopefully it was like Antonia, who's like way older.
Yeah, she would probably Antonia. Be in her 20s. Like,
yeah.
Possibly creeping up to 30s correctly.
Yeah, but I think if I remember correctly, she's already married off to like the king of Parthia or something like that, or Pontus, something like that.
Yeah.
But so it probably was Octavia's daughters. Oh no.
The babies.
No. So, but anyway, he had even fought with Antony in his Parthian wars. But apparently Cleopatra was just too much for this guy to handle. As morale began to disintegrate in Actium, he decided to take a small boat and defect to Octavian, because that's like the Roman go-to. When you're ready to bounce, you take a small boat. Pompey did it. This guy's doing it. Like, it's weird.
It's gross.
It's always a boat.
Row your boat to the other side.
But at any rate, Antony was pretty devastated. But we, on the Time Travelers Club and Cleopatra, were not surprised.
Oh,
I'm sure Cleo saw this come in from a mile away. And you know, it's probably the hindsight. She probably pegged him and probably said something. And then he's like, oh, I just can't work with her. She tried to bribe me, guys. And she's like, no, I caught you trying to switch sides.
But nobody listens to Cleo.
Right. And like, it was easier for them to believe that. I came over here because she was just so unbearable. She tried to even bribe me.
Oh my God.
But Antony, being the super honorable guy he was, decided rather than rage out, instead he just sent his former colleagues, baggage, friends, and servants to join him. Like, he's like, all right, you guys can go with them and take all your stuff if you want.
Yeah,
It's
no.
not good. That is not a good tactic. And here, I
Antony.
just like,
Oh my god.
I don't like hostages. I don't like it, but it's
See, I
that
wouldn't
time.
have even done that. See, I guess I'm a little too bloodthirsty. Like, you can have them back in pieces.
Oh, whoa, girl. See, I'm like more, I guess I am Octavian. I would have been like, all right, I'm holding on to them. And if you,
No, like I'm
because
a
I know that
fucking
you're a
rabid
command.
dog. Like, Oh, you want to do that? You want to go to the other side? Glorious.
See, I'm like, all right, when we go to battle, I'm going to make sure they're in a nice, prominent place where you can see them.
I see. I
And
like
me,
that too. I like that too. Or,
like, I
some of
mean,
them go in pieces.
but to
Depends
just let them,
on
like,
yeah.
you
No.
let them go and take all their shit.
Yeah, no.
I'm just like, it's the nice thing to do, but it's the dumb thing.
It's absolute stupidity. but by this point though, the situation at the camp was starting to take a downward spiral. It was mosquito infested and rations were running out. The men were hungry, in a sour mood, and had the privilege of staring at her fabulous tents and beautiful flagship, the Antonia, which had 10 banks of oars carved and decorated much like the ones that had, just a few years ago, sailed into Tarsus. No longer limited to his long gone commander, he began to hear from more common soldiers that Cleopatra should be sent away, but Antony refused to listen to it, and even her own allies, such as Candidus, wanted her gone. Like, we love Cleo, and we understand at the beginning why she may not have wanted to leave. But at this point, girl, read the room. And like
Yeah,
I get it from both sides. I understand
I
it
know.
because realistically, if she leaves, she is a coward. And she is handing over
Yeah,
control to the men. She is literally handing over the future of Egypt to men. She cannot do that.
yeah,
But if she doesn't leave, these sexist pieces of shit are going to have a little bitch fit conniption because men are apt to have little bitch fit conniptions.
yeah. So, like, I mean, I guess you're answering, like, why is she not stepping to the side like she had with Caesar? You know?
Yeah, because
Um,
obviously this is not Caesar. This is not
right.
Caesar. So why? Why was she not stepping to the side? Right? Perhaps it comes down to the fact that Octavian had declared war on her alone. Plus, as we've seen before, she had been shunted aside by military advisors before and ill served by intermediaries. Remember how the defectors went to the other side during the Civil War?
Uh-huh.
And she
Yeah,
had
like
to
the
answer for that shit?
yeah, like when that Roman, like, what do they call it? Begin with a G, like, whatever. The point is, like, that whole Roman, like, guard that she was given, and
Yep.
then she sent them over to like help Antony or whatever, and it was like, whoop, just kidding, we're going over to Cassius. And then her governor over in Cyprus was like, oh, I'm just going to give your entire navy up.
Exactly.
Like,
Like, why would she trust anybody? Why would she trust
no.
anybody? And plus, Antony himself had kind of gone out for cigarettes and milk and just forgot to come back for a few years. So is it really any surprise that maybe she didn't trust all of Egypt's fate to Antony alone because he is known to be a fuckboy supreme?
And again, he's not the one they declared war on. So if she say she wasn't there, maybe it's a little tempting for him to be like, pull a Fulvia and go, oh, that was just a crazy broad. You know, it was just crazy broads, man. That wasn't my choice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he's kind of got an MLO. I'm not saying he
Exactly.
would do that, but
But how would that look? How would that look as as the ruler of Egypt, the ruler of all of Egypt, the Pharaoh, to not be there and let other people fight their battles? In this world of misogyny and masculinity, many people would be whispering that if she had stayed home, that this was proof that female rulers were not as competent as their male counterparts. A king would have been on the front lines. So let's make the argument that perhaps her being there wasn't necessarily the wrong move, but was how she was conducting herself and her inability to read the room for some reason this time. She had not soldiered like this before, especially amongst common men, and the luxury and opulence that had served her well in Alexandria, Tarsus, and Rome were not going to work out here in the middle of a swamp. And we may not like it here on the Time Travelers Club, but her outspokenness was not helping her in this particular situation. If she was going to be there, perhaps ingratiating herself with a little more with these guys would have helped. And it's not that we think that women should know how to get men and feed their egos, but it is a sign of those times. And she was in their element, unfortunately. Or perhaps they would have done it either way. We will never know. And like, I will always play devil's advocate here. Like, for sure. Because if she had dropped the opulence and she had gone in there and she had like been fierce battle bitch alongside these people, one, that's not her.
No. I think that's the problem. This isn't her. I don't know what the right answer is. I do, and I don't. God, I feel like a piece of shit. Toning it down. I think this, if they weren't in a siege situation, at the beginning, this was great. We have all the best shit. We look awesome. We look like the heroes of like old, right? Everyone gathering against this, against Rome, who's been bullying all of us for too long. But now we're in a swamp, and we've been here for months. I will still personally lay the blame on Antony's feet. Right?
Absolutely. It is 100,000% his fault for that one.
But also, as we drag into months 6 and 7, into the summer, and it's hot and gross, you're dealing with coastal storms and like malaria, and you're shitting your brains out from dysentery and dying of diarrhea death. Like, you just don't want to look at a gold tent. You know? And like, I don't know. But I don't think that she would have ever been in that situation or she would not have put herself per se in that situation if she knew this was coming, right? I think she needed to read Antony a little better too. Like, I'm going to put some blame at both of their feet. He should have made decisions, but also she's been with him for a few years now. She knows this man, and she knows he's, at this point, not the greatest at these kinds of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that she loved him. She's like, he's going to do it, and I believe in him. And he kind of let her down.
Oh, he absolutely let her down.
And she just was like, I'm going to double down. I'm the queen bitch. You men will listen to me. And like, she doesn't have that authority like she did back in her home court. I don't know what the right answer is here.
I don't think there is a right answer.
We'll never know anyway, so don't matter.
Yeah.
Speaking of morale plunging, let's talk more about those mosquitoes, because apparently swarms of them had descended upon the camp, and the inevitable epidemic, most likely malaria, took over. Conditions by this point were deplorable. Months had passed of all of this, and while it may have been the plans who originally trapped Octavian here, Antony and Cleopatra found themselves that they were actually the one trapped. The tide had shifted so slowly they hadn't realized it until it was too late. By August, Antony had no choice but to enlist whole towns to carry supplies overland to camp. And it was in fact Plutarch's great-grandfather who was among those pressed into service to make tracks over mountain paths to the Gulf with sacks of wheat on their shoulders and whips to their backs.
So that's Plutarch's beef. Understood.
That's it. So this just proves that clearly Plutarch, who wrote heavily on Antony and Cleopatra, wasn't exactly impartial.
Oh, never.
In any case, It's no surprise that the desertions began in droves. Slaves and client kings alike began to abandon the cause. Antony, who, as we've seen this before with Brutus and with that whole his commander just bouncing thing, usually pretty magnanimous about that sort of stuff. But he began to slip, and he decided to make an example of two near deserters, a senator and a Syrian king, by having them tortured and executed to discourage further imitators.
I don't think that was the
So
move, Antony.
nope, because it worked so well when you kidnap the entire Armenian royal family. Also, Romans love it when you kill other Romans. Old white Roman, old rich Romans. They love it when you do that. And treat them like common people. So yeah, it was. I honestly don't know which was the worst political move, but it was clear that Antony himself was now rattled. At
To
one
say the
point, he made.
least.
Mhm. At one point, he made the outstanding decision. It's just brilliant here. To stroll along the fortifications toward the sea, where he almost got kidnapped by Octavian's men.
God damn it.
It was a near miss. Yeah. So clearly, Ahenbarbus's abandonment had left him quite paranoid. Even to the point where he couldn't trust Cleopatra, because eventually, I think I saw this coming, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna get upset with the spouse eventually. So apparently he accused her of poisoning him.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and this is pretty heartbreaking because, as we've seen, Cleopatra's made so many sacrifices up to this point. She's proven her loyalty. She's proven it.
Yeah. The whispers of these men and their toxic masculinity had finally gotten to him. And to prove her innocence, Stacy Schiff says, she was said to have prepared a lethal drink only to intercept the goblet as he raised it to his lips. Had she intended to kill him, she would not have done so, would she? She then sent for a prisoner to whom she handed the potion. It had the advertised effect. Schiff does point out that the story is suspect, though. Cleopatra could hardly proceed without Antony, and he was unlikely to have forgotten as much, even in an agitated state.
Yeah, like, was her,
What would be the point?
like, again, it's spin. It's like she tried to poison. She's using deception again. It's like, oh, look, see, like, I saved you from being poisoned. Like,
The thing is, that's not
that proves I'm
Cleopatra
not poisoning
spin.
you.
Cleopatra spin
right.
is putting the salted Atlantic fish on the end of the pole when he tried to trick her.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah, and
Cleopatra spin.
Like, but she's a poison queen and like blah blah and switch and sorceress and like that.
No,
You
know what that is? That's Roman propaganda. That's bullshit, and I'm calling it as it is. I don't like it.
Absolutely.
But she also quarreled with Dellius, and the two came to blows at dinner one night when he complained of the wine. According to him, it was sour, and he scoffed that in Rome, Octavian and his men drowned the finest vintages. And he would go on to proceed to tell everyone that Cleopatra meant to murder him, and that one of her physicians had confirmed it. More than likely, he was just using this as an excuse for his own defection, as he fled to Octavian, where he would spill the beans on all of Antony's battle plans. Because Roman men ain't shit, and none of them are loyal. And this is where, like, here's the thing. I love the imagery of Isis. I do. However, Isis is not the goddess for this battle. I can think of another Kemetic goddess that really just chef's kiss. And baby, you gotta spill blood. You have to have loyalty so fucking fierce that these people are willing to die for you.
Yeah.
And none of them have it. Antony doesn't have the loyalty of these people. She doesn't have the loyalty of these people.
No. Yeah, like, I mean, and just, again, like, maybe this guy would not have defected, though, if, I think he just, honestly, he saw the situation. He's like, this guy ain't going to make a decision. We've gone beyond the point of no return. By the time this guy makes a move, it's going to be too late. I'm going to do me right. And of course, he used her as the excuse to get out of Dodge, but he had already made up his mind.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I just hate that he used her as the fucking scapegoat.
Yeah, but like all these other guys were, so it's just like, fuck it, why not jump on that bandwagon, I guess.
Yeah.
But with what few men he did have at this point, Antony called a war council 16 weeks after the blockade had started.
Good God.
And yeah, it had taken its toll by this point. The situation was not looking good, and winter would soon be upon them. And Antony would need to finally figure out what the hell he was going to do. It would seem that immediate tactics came more naturally to him than the long game strategy. But yet one more time, it would seem that Cleopatra would cause the falling out of one more Roman man. Candace, her once upon a time ally, and her disagreed on what the next move should be. He preferred to march north and have a contest on land. His argument being that they were Romans after all, and they had always had an aversion to sea battles. Cleopatra, on the other hand, really advocated for naval engagement, and to be honest, her reasons were perfectly sound. Antony was seriously outnumbered on land, and without a fleet, it wasn't like he was going to be able to get anywhere near Italy anyway. On top of that, it wasn't easy to move armies over mountains. This part of Greece, after all, while they were on the coast, was known for being incredibly mountainous not too far by. They actually weren't too far away from where the Olympic Games in Olympia were held, which were known for being mountainous. This is not the same as Mount Olympus, just for the record. That's much further north towards Macedonia. I just always felt like I was really confused with that growing up, Like, I just thought, oh, they had the Olympics at Mount Olympus, but nope, nowhere near each other.
Well, Mount Olympus is the home of the gods. Like, while they hold the Olympics in honor of the gods, it wouldn't necessarily be at their home.
Yeah, it was just the way it was always described. It's like, yeah, they worship at the temple of Zeus at the base of a mountain, which I always just assumed was Mount Olympus, right? Because it's in honor of the gods. Zeus is watching over the whole thing. He lives in Olympus. So it's just okay. But anyway, but she was right to point out that for his showdown with Caesar, Pompey too had marshaled a massive force, much like theirs, in Greece. And we saw how that ended up. Cleopatra herself had donated 60 ships to that fleet, and yet Pompey had elected to ignore his navy, which had been far superior to Caesar's. He would pay for that blunder with carnage, robbed of his army, and, well, eventually without his head on her Egyptian shores. So she was definitely speaking from personal experience here. Something the other one perhaps didn't have. Again, we're seeing she read the commentaries. Learn from your past mistakes. Don't let history repeat itself. But she had a vagina. So we know where this is going.
She's not supposed to comment on such things.
Right. And we all know where this is going, right? Just kidding. Mark Antony to the rescue. He actually agreed with her. Which is honestly pretty refreshing.
And surprising.
I'm surprising, but also honestly a little too late. But whatever, we got there. So because he had also been there and understood exactly what the hell she was talking about. So he decided to go for that naval campaign. And based on what we're about to learn later, I think Canada here decided to hang back. It's not like explicitly stated that way, but no spoilers. I mean, I feel like it's not really a spoiler, but yeah, we'll see why I think that later. Later, Plutarch would say that he was swayed by emotion. But as we're seeing, there is another option where, oh my god, despite being a woman, she made sense and had sound reason and a better argument.
Can't possibly happen. She was against a man, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess better argument on paper, but we'll see.
Yeah. It was pretty plain, though, for Antony that Octavian not only had a coherent narrative, but a more unified force. For one, his army all spoke the same language, Latin, as well as the famous training that the Roman legions received. This was a style of warfare where all were aware of the same tactics and encouraged to work as one unit rather than as individuals. On land, the advantage would be to Octavian, but on the sea, they were far more evenly matched. Antony tried to explain this to his men, but few of them could swim. Plus, a woman had come up with the idea, so it can't be good. And apparently, one veteran threw himself upon Antony and busted out his astonishing collection of scars, claiming, how could Antony insult these wounds to invest his hopes in miserable logs of wood? Let the Egyptians and Phoenicians do their fighting at sea, but give us land on which we are accustomed to stand and either conquer our enemies or die. We argue, if you're so afraid of dying, then why do you care about going out to sea? Antony apparently just smiled and nodded, but said nothing. Over the next few days...
Also, that was really weird.
Yeah.
That was really weird. This guy's
weird.
just like... It reminds me of that scene with Gaston, and he just rips open his shirt. Just bare chest.
And every last inch of me covered in hair. Fucking...
Every inch of me covered in scars.
Look at these scars! That's...
Look at them!
I think
look at him!
He was just having a moment of, I need somebody to see my body.
I think he was just hangry.
That too. But over the next few days, Cleopatra would eventually be greeted with a familiar scent. That was the smell of burning cedar and resin, one she would have been familiar with from the Alexandrine harbor 17 years earlier. Antony dragged some 80 of her ships to the beach and set them ablaze, as he no longer had the crew to man the fleet and could not risk it falling into Octavian's hands. This poor girl, what a waste of fucking money. And Julius Caesar had done this too. I mean, I guess it's not their money lost, so they don't give a fuck. But I suppose they do have a point, but still. If I were her, I'd probably just not invest in that many ships anymore for these guys, because clearly they're not going to use them. Pompey, Caesar, now Antony, all of them clean. They need ships, but when the time comes, it seems like they're just always good at lighting them on fire. And those were really expensive for her too, because to get the wood for them, it would have all had to have been imported. And while the Greeks may have been seafaring people, the Ptolemies had been in Egypt for a long time, and those were not seafaring people. So having the craftsmen and the materials to make these things had to have been just as much more expensive.
For real. I mean... Because, you're talking about they're using, cedar wood that's going to be from, Lebanon. Well, today, let's say Lebanon, right? And then, you have to import the actual people, the shipbuilders who know what they're doing, because they're doing specific styles of ship from, the Greek and Roman world. So, you've got to do that. It just... It's insane.
It's stupidity. It's absolute stupidity. And here's the thing. We've been saying that Antony could not make a choice. Here's
Yeah,
the thing.
that's it.
People have such black and white thinking when it comes to decision making. You make choice A, you make choice B. There is always a choice C. And sometimes choice C is staying still and not making a choice. That is still a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
the
would say in this
moment you do that,
situation too, yeah.
the moment you do that, you are no longer a leader.
Yeah. I think there's a difference, right, between like, okay, I need a little bit of time to like, if it was like he was waiting for certain resources to come in or something like that, that'd be one thing, but nothing there saying that. Everyone was there ready to go
Yeah.
and just waited too
And
long.
how many people fucking died because of his inability to just say now?
Yeah. Like
Because they
you
had
need a few
fucking
days to come up with
malaria
a
going on. They were having the death shits.
Yeah. And it just like the reality of the situation was he backed himself into a hole, realized, fuck, I backed in wrong and I don't know how to get out of it. Like,
Wouldn't you
and
rather
now
like
everyone's
fight
saying,
your way out than fucking stay put?
well, and the thing is we're about to see, even with the lack of, like, honestly, a lot of things going against him, it was never like an easy victory, you know? It was never set in stone. So honestly, I firmly believe that if he had months ago just said, all right, we're doing it, we're busting out, they would have definitely lived to fight another day, if not just won the thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm getting more pissed as, as we're reading this because I'm just like, you stupid fucking testicle haver. You stupid fucking testicle haver.
So, yeah.
So, a storm would eventually blow in to extinguish what was left of the wreckage, and for 4 days, gale winds and drenching rains lashed the coast. One could only imagine how miserable these poor fuckers were on the salty marsh right on the coast. Under the cover of darkness on the evening of September the 1st, Cleopatra's officers secretly loaded her chests of treasure onto her flagship, the Antonia. Several other transport ships took on additional wealth as well as a hoard of royal tableware, apparently. Which, how much tableware do you need? You know, where several transport ships needed to be involved. But by sunrise, though, Antony had embarked with 20,000 soldiers and with them thousands of archers and slingers. Cleopatra and her remaining 60 ships would take up the rear as much to head off deserters as for protection. It was clear right here that she was never meant to take part in the fighting, just to make a mental note that might come back as an important thing later.
So it's time to set the stage for perhaps one of the most infamous battles from this time period. It's definitely the most famous one in Cleopatra's life. This is the Battle of Actium. So let's start with Antony. He possessed roughly 230 warships. This is reduced from those original 500. Yeah. And burning those he couldn't ban. These were mostly quinqueremes. So there's triremes, quadremes, quinqueremes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are massive, high-walled galleys with reinforced prows, designed to smash through enemy lines and rain missiles from high towers. These are like the man of wars from like the colonial era. These are battleships, massive. They would have been terrifying at this time period, right?
Yeah.
However, as we've covered in nauseum at this point, they were severely undermanned, and those who did remain were sick and malnourished. So then let's talk about Octavian's side. And we realized throughout this we have kept saying Octavian like he was actually there. But no. in true Octavian fashion, he's working from home.
Fuck this guy.
It-
Fuck
He's
this
there
guy.
on a Zoom meeting.
I'm so sorry. I'm sick.
He's like a CEO, you know? Like, it was instead Agrippa who was there. And like we said before, he clearly had no problem just letting Octavian have the credit. And that's why we're going to say Octavian's forces, not Agrippa's. Yet, I just want to take a moment to point this out. I can't help but notice that since Cleopatra was technically the opposing side, technically, they declared war against her. Shouldn't it be Cleopatra's forces and not Antony's?
It
Since he
should
was
be.
technically just her commander?
It should be. But
Yeah, Antony's
unfortunately,
technically Agrippa.
but it doesn't work
Funny
that way,
how
does
it
it?
works. Nope. It's almost like misogyny is subconscious at this point.
No, it seriously is.
I was just like writing this up and I'm like, everything is saying Antony's forces and versus Octavian's. And I'm like, but technically it's Cleopatra he's at war with. It's just weird. Like, I don't think anyone's intentionally doing that to like disrespect her, but yeah.
No, it absolutely is. It's more of because she was not known to be a military queen. She was not a militant
No.
queen. She was more of an
But
economic
Octavian's
queen.
not known for being a militant king, you know? Like,
No,
he's known for being the Pax Romana and like the idea of like Roman virtue and culture and like blah 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 blah.
Oh no, I'm not
And a
denying that.
lawmaker. And that's why I'm like, it's just again, even that it's like still misogyny.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely it is. Abso-fucking-lutely it is. Because give it to a man, title it for a man, the armies are the man's because a woman could never.
Yeah. Because he's never been there and actually won nothing.
Exactly.
It's always been someone else. When it was the Civil War, it was Antony who ended up winning that shit. Because remember, he called in sick and then like his whole camp got raided? Because that's like my favorite thing. He's like, I'm just going to do that thing I always do and call in sick at the last minute. And he's like in his little tent drinking his cocoa, even though that's anachronistic, you know, because cocoa wasn't there yet, but whatever. And he's just like snuggled in. Then all of a sudden he's like, he hears the thundering of hooves. He's like, what the? And all of a sudden they come crashing through. Like he thought he could stay home and stay out of it. And it came to him. And I love that. And he learned from that by staying at Rome. So,
indeed.
Yeah. So Agrippa commanded over 400 Lubernians. These were small, low-slung, and incredibly fast. These were stocked with presumably well-rested and definitely more positive-minded troops. For hours, though, these fleets stared each other down in the silence of the Gulf. Antony hoped Octavian, aka Agrippa, would attack him in the narrow waters. But Octavian, aka Agrippa, stayed out at sea. Finally, Antony was forced to advance his line. As the colossal galleys moved into open water, Octavian's agile ships swarmed them. The Lubernians refused to ram the heavy prows of Antony's ships, and instead they darted in to shear off oars and retreated before the larger ships could grapple them.
The battle presented a fascinating clash of naval philosophies. Antony commanded massive quinqueremes, towering wooden fortresses equipped with catapults and towers. Okay? They were built to ram and crush, designed to be impenetrable. Agrippa deployed smaller, nimbler Liburnian vessels. They couldn't match the heavy ships in a head-on collision, but they could dance around them, snapping at their oars like a pack of wolves. At noon, the wind finally favored a move. Antony's massive right wing surged forward, hoping to turn Octavian's flank. Agrippa responded by drawing his line back, pulling the heavy Egyptian ships further out into open sea, where they lost the protection of the coast. The sea became a chaotic melee. Because Octavian's ships were too small to ram the giants, they resorted to targeting oars, in hopes of shearing off the rowing banks to leave the giants dead in the water. They also launched flaming projectiles into the wooden towers and used the harpax, a catapult-launched grappling hook, to pull ships close for hand-to-hand combat. The turning point remains one of history's greatest debates. The battle turned into a chaotic stalemate until early afternoon. Suddenly, a signal was given. Cleopatra's squadron of 60 ships, which they had been holding in reserve behind the lines, raised their sails and surged forward. They did not engage the enemy. They smashed through the center of the formation and fled south towards Egypt. Seeing this, Antony did the unthinkable.
Some claimed Antony, seeing his lover depart, lost his nerve. Plutarch, whatever his reasons, he abandoned his flagship, boarded a smaller galley, because we always go to a smaller boat, and chased after her, leaving his men to fight a battle that was now fundamentally lost. Now, let's remember what Courtney said earlier, that Cleopatra was a non-combatant, right?
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't meant to fight. She was essentially the floating treasury, hospital, and had all the non-combatants at this point, like all the wives and families, staff, like the people who are cooking your food and crap, the nurses, they're all there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And even today, though, people describe the scene as an abandonment of duty, that she left Antony without warning and just pieced out, abandoned the army due to being a woman out of her element. Like, oh, she was a non-combatant queen.
She's
Literally,
always been
yes.
a non-fucking combatant. What the fuck, guys?
Like, but at the same time, like, she literally is non-combatant. It's not like she's got this. Those 60 ships are not a reserve. They have to bring all their money with them, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she probably had just enough people to, like, protect those ships, and that's about it. But, like, her getting involved ain't going to do anybody any favor. So what I think happened, right, was that this was in fact probably always the plan. Hence the signal. If shit went south, she was to take the treasury and the non-combatants to safety. Makes sense. Like, but that didn't stop later historians from speculating and scandalizing it. Like Plutarch, who makes the lurid comment that, quote, the heart of the lover belongs to another's body, and the general followed the woman as if he had been part of her and must move where she went. Because apparently Antony was just some lovesick puppy.
Have they never heard of a tactical retreat?
Right.
Breaking the line, actually getting away from a siege, being able to go to a place where you actually have the ability to, like, maneuver and get more supplies and medicine?
I almost don't. Right. And I don't even know if it goes even that far, but yes. Here's my thing. No matter the reason, ultimately, none of this had been communicated with anyone else on Antony's side. That's the problem. Cleo may have known, but as I think I'm about to show you, I don't think anyone else knew, right? Disheartened, confused, the Antonian fleet fought on until nightfall before surrendering. Like, so they're still going. They're like, where the hell is he going? Maybe he's going to get more troops. I don't know. So they just keep going. And then the army on land under Canidus because that's why I'm like, I think he just absolutely refused to go with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think there was a tactical reason to leave him there, which then even tells me there, if Candace hadn't had his panties in a bunch, they probably would have won.
Absolutely.
So if Antony hadn't waited, if Candace hadn't had his panties in a bunch, they would have won. But instead, we're going to blame Cleo, who was a non-combatant who had the treasury and was told, if I send the signal, you need to bounce. And we're going to blame that the battle was lost to this day on her.
Oh, of course, because woman.
It's her fault, not Candace, who held out for 7 days, apparently waiting for Antony to return. But then when he didn't, 19 legions surrendered en masse to Octavian. Those 19 legions, I feel like, would have been real helpful.
Yeah.
Probably could have manned those 80 ships. Just saying. Maybe not, but at least a few of them.
Something.
What the hell? Like, right. Abandoned by their commander, they also laid down their arms. The war was effectively lost in a single afternoon.
Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria, but their power was broken. Octavian spent the winter of 31 to 30 BCE consolidating his gains. He refused to chase them immediately, knowing that time was on his side. He marched overland through Syria and Judea, accepting the submission of the client kings who had once sworn fealty to Antony. In the west, Antony attempted to secure the 4 legions stationed in Cyrenaica, modern Libya, under Lucius Pinarius. But when Antony's messengers arrived, had them executed, and declared for Octavian.
So I want to say this for a moment. Like, I feel like up until doing the research for this, I don't know. It's the way they tell the story. It would always be like, okay, so Cleopatra retreats, Octavian chases after her, they've lost everything, and then not long after this, the big deed immediately follows, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing already that it's almost a year before, like a whole year goes by after that battle. So I don't know. I feel like this is why it's so important to really read this stuff a bit and don't just go off the Spark Notes, because like it changes the narrative dramatically. And like, I guess no spoilers, but you know, we'll get into it, I guess, next time. But yeah, I always assumed that everything happened a lot more rapidly than honestly it actually did. So
Yeah. And most people would. Most people would. The way that it's written in these accounts, it sounds like it's boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. No, there is time. There is
yeah, and so like, and it
time.
changes the narrative entirely,
It
because there are
does.
motivations of like why, you know, I guess it's not really a spoiler that Antony takes his own life, but it's like they make it sound like it's a direct result of that battle, and
But
it's
that makes
not.
no
No
sense.
sense. It makes no sense if a whole year has gone by.
Mm-hmm.
If all was lost, why are they bothering to fight back? Because a whole year went by.
Exactly.
That's why. We have the hindsight to understand that this was, yeah, that battle was kind of the final nail in the coffin. They just didn't realize that. And that is the tragedy here.
Yeah. So the end came in the summer of 30 BCE. Octavian launched a 2-pronged invasion of Egypt. Pinarius marched from the west and Octavian from the east. Antony, in a flash of his old brilliance, led a cavalry charge outside the walls of Alexandria, routing Octavian's advanced guard. But it was a hollow victory. The next morning, as Antony prepared to engage Octavian's main force, he watched from the city walls as his own fleet rode out to meet the enemy, not to fight, but to salute and join them. His cavalry followed suit, defecting en masse.
And that is where we're going to leave it before the final episode of this season next time.
Oh, my heart hurts.
Yeah. If you like what you heard today, please give us a positive review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. It goes a long way for us to appease the algorithm gods and get this suggested to others just like you. The more we can connect to our fellow history nerds, the more we can build up a community and keep the show going.
Also, we have a Patreon where you can hang out with us and get exclusive content, like videos where we might try to make some ancient recipes, talk about topics that couldn't fit into the main arcs of the podcast, and just generally being batshit and dumpster fires. All for the price of a latte per month. Research materials and books cost a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time for us to create this show, so anything that you can provide would be a huge help.
We can't wait to see you again next week, and as always, thanks for listening.
Bye for now.